All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Teddy Atlas says that David Benavidez needs to beat Demetrius Andrade in order to be considered the Mexican monster. And also, Teddy Atlas has some other thoughts about David Benavidez as well. So, I'm going to break it down to y'all. Let's talk about it in this video. King Jr. got another video for y'all. Please sure that you like and subscribe to the channel, and also share the video to get all your latest boxing news. And remember to hit that bell icon to always be notified as soon as I release the news, and so you guys can watch it. So with that being said, I want to give a shout out to all my subscribers that subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate you. I'm going to try to keep it as neutral, keep it as unbiased as I possibly can be. Now, there are times I do be a fanboy at sometimes, but that's just because I love and appreciate the fighters for what they do, and I rock with them for a very long time. So if I'm more a little bit biased towards my fighter because I'm riding with my fighter and I'm sticking, win, lose, or draw. So whatever the case may be, let's get into this video. Teddy Atlas stated on his podcast, the fight with Teddy Atlas. Go subscribe to him. Teddy Atlas has some good content over there. So Teddy Atlas says that David Benavidez is not the Mexican monster. In order to be the Mexican monster, he's going to have to be the person like Demetrius Andrade. And I have to agree with Teddy Atlas. Teddy Atlas is absolutely right on this, because David Benavidez has been fighting competition. We know he has been fighting past guys that's a little bit past out their prime, but they have names. And he was talking about how David Benavidez, you know, he made it look easy. He walked straight through Lemieux. We know that Lemieux was looking for the big punch all night long, when we knew that Lemieux wasn't going to have an advantage over Benavidez because of the size difference. We know Lemieux has been knocked out 3 times in his career. He even got knocked out by Gennady Golovkin, and he gave Gennady Golovkin a pretty rough, rugged fight, but he just wasn't enough to beat Gennady Golovkin, and he wound up getting knocked out by Gennady Golovkin, and so on and so forth. So Teddy Atlas, you know, he says David Benavidez is a pretty good fighter, you know, but he's going to, in order to prove that he's a good fighter, he's going to have to be a person like Demetrius Andrade. And I have to agree, because Demetrius Andrade, he says that Demetrius Andrade's style, look, he's a very talented fighter, but he's not the most exciting guy, because you guys know how they talk about black fighters, how their style is boring. And he's basically just said, well, David Benavidez is going to have to be the guy with a boring style like Demetrius Andrade, that's very slick, that's going to move, and that's going to get in, has decent amounts of power, and so on and so forth. And I feel like David Benavidez already stated that he will fight Demetrius Andrade, and Samson was making up the excuse that they're going to need at least $10 million to fight Demetrius Andrade, because Demetrius Andrade, he's not an exciting fighter, and he's just going to be looking to win. And that has crossed my mind still to this day, like Samson. Are you a fighter? Are you just supposed to win? It's not how excited. People, as boxing fans, don't appreciate the sweet science of boxing. They just want to see you slug it out in like a Mexican-style stance and just throw punches back and forth until which guy falls. That's not smart boxing. That's called getting brain damage and putting yourself in the grave early. And, you know, David Benavidez also stated on a few channels, look, I will fight Demetrius Andrade. I don't give a damn what my promoter says. I'll fight him. And I feel like if David Benavidez beats a guy like Demetrius Andrade, that's a statement. That will prove to us boxing fans that David Benavidez style, if you learn it right, that straightforward, come forward, using your speed and throwing a lot of punches to overwhelm your opponent, beat a guy like within Demetrius Andrade, who is still in his prime today, that's a huge statement. And I will give David Benavidez all the credit in the world. Now, Teddy Atlas also stated that, well, David Benavidez is too big for 168 pounds. He needs to go up to 175. Well, first of all, in my opinion, if David Benavidez can make 168 pounds, that's cool with me. Continue to stay at the weight as long as you can. A lot of people consider David Benavidez a weight bully, Well, you could say he's a weight bully because David Benavidez, when he was a young man, he was 280 plus pounds, and he did get off the weight and worked his ass off to get off the weight, and I respect him for that. So if you want to call David Benavidez a weight bully, call him a weight bully, but I don't consider him a weight bully to me. I feel like that David Benavidez, if he can make the weight perfectly and fine, he's not a weight bully because the guy came in at 166 pounds. So he damn near came at the middle, not the middleweight mark, but like the middleweight of 165. You know, it's still super middleweight, but he almost crossed that mark. So I respect David Benavidez. He wanted to prove everybody that he can make weight. We know that he consistently has not been making 168. We all know that he only made it like twice or 3 times. But David Benavidez needs to control his weight. He needs to be more disciplined. You know, he's still a little bit young, but he's got to be more disciplined because he's getting up to in the age factor that, okay, now you just need to start being more disciplined. So Teddy Atlas was also asking about David Benavidez needs to go up to 175 pounds to fight Zurdo Ramirez. Now, in my opinion, well, let me backtrack because he feels like that David Benavidez, since he's been calling for the big fights, and he already stated that he knows he could beat a guy like Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo, who's not a 168-pounder yet. He's still at 160, so it would make no sense to call for a guy that's at 160 in another weight class. It makes absolutely no sense. But that's another video. And so Caleb Plant, and so you know guys, the guys at 168 pounds and stuff like that. And he says that if Canelo Alvarez truly wanted to clear out the division, he's going to have to beat me, David Benavidez. Well, Canelo Alvarez looking like, what do you bring to the table? Well, first of all, David Benavidez has built up himself a name and got himself back into the mandatory position where it will make for an interesting fight to see Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez. Now, I'm picking David Benavidez by a very small margin, but I have to remember that Canelo Alvarez is a very highly skilled boxer, and walking forward and throwing a lot of punches is not going to beat Canelo Alvarez because that suits Canelo Alvarez's style very well. And Canelo Alvarez is very good at hitting at the body as well. But that's a whole nother video. So Teddy Atlas was talking about David Benavidez needs to move up to 75. Well, he can go up to 75, but I highly doubt he's going to get any big names there because Arthur Beterbiev and Joe Smith Jr., they're fighting for a unification bout for 3 belts. And we know that Demetrius Bivol is trying to get in the mix, but we don't know what the Canelo Alvarez situation, if he's going to rematch Demetrius Bivol after he's successful against Gennady Golovkin. So we don't know that situation. So you're not going to get the big fights. You might get secondary names like Marcus Brown, Zurdo Ramirez, Anthony Yarde, Sergey Kovalev. You guys know all the light heavyweights at 175. You might get a second tier big star name, but it makes no sense for David Benavidez to go up to 75 where he can stay at 168 and wait for Canelo to vacate those belts and already be in a position to win a title, and he can fight these guys that's coming from 160 to 168 and the guys who's still at 168. So David Benavidez has already beaten a couple decent names at 168, and really all he has to do left is face Caleb Plant, which I think he will beat Caleb Plant in my opinion because of the style matchup. And if Jamal Charlo comes up to 160 and 168, that would break for a great damn fight. I would like to see Jamal Charlo get his feet wet, but if he feels like he's ready for David Benavidez at 168 pounds, I'll rock with him. So I have to agree with Teddy Atlas. David Benavidez is not the Mexican monster. We know that Mike Tyson has given him the name. We know Mike Tyson always be high on weed and stuff like that, so he just be throwing stuff out there and goes viral. But we have to come to a standpoint that David Benavidez is not the Mexican monster, because he needs to start fighting guys that's going to present problems to him. He needs to fight a David Morrell Jr. He needs to fight a Caleb Plant that's slick and can move around him and outbox him. He needs to fight guys like a Demetrius Andrade. He needs to fight a tough opponent like a Jamal Charlo, who's eventually going to move up to 160 to 168 after he fights Macy Selecki, which he says he will move up to 68 if he beats Macy Selecki or whatever Jamal Charlo is going to do. So we would like to see David Benavidez in those big fights. I want to see David Benavidez in those big fights. I think he could prove a lot of people wrong. But can David Benavidez handle a slick style? Now, we know that Demetrius Andrade has issues with the PBC and stuff like that due to the stuff that he pulled out of the fight. And he was supposed to make his debut against Zach Parker at 168, but he had a shoulder injury, and I'm going to continue to check up on that. But we need to see what David Benavidez is going to do. Well, not David Benavidez, Demetrius Andrade going to do, because we know that him and Jermell Charlo was supposed to fight, and then he pulled out the fight days later, and Al Heyman says, okay, dude, screw you. We're not going to do business with you. So, and Eddie Hearn already says we're not going to be trying to deal with Demetrius Andrade. So Demetrius Andrade is on the big debacle. So I would love to see the fight. I hope Al Heyman makes that fight between David Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade. It'll make for a very good fight, and it will make for a very interesting fight. We know that the age of Demetrius Andrade, he's not getting any younger. He's going to be 34 years of age this year, I believe. I don't know his birthday like that. But, like I said before, if David Benavidez beats Demetrius Andrade, that's a damn good statement. Now, is that going to be an easy fight? Hell no. That is a very tough fight for David Benavidez, because Demetrius Andrade is not going to be there to stay there in front of David Benavidez, and David Benavidez doesn't have the best footwork. Now, is David Morrell Jr. a hard fight for David Benavidez? Hell yes, that's a very hard fight for David Benavidez. Very hard fight. But everybody wants to see if David Benavidez is this Mexican monster. I totally agree with Teddy Atlas. David Benavidez is not a Mexican monster until he beat Demetrius Andrade. So let me know what you guys think on the whole situation. So with that being said, guys, it is what it is. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. This is your boy King Jr. I'm out of here. Peace.